The MCU is well known for two things: their end post-credit scenes and their famous cameos. But the thing is, even something good, like Marvel cameos, can turn sour if you've been given too much of them. And here's why they're ruining the MCU, starting off with the first point. The cameos are taking away attention from the actual movie's protagonists. The first few entries in this series all featured cameos by major characters in the post-credit scenes, like Tony Stark dropping by for a chat with General Ross in The Incredible Hulk, or when Nick Fury showed up at Tony's house at the end of Iron Man, and Thor's hammer being revealed at the end of Iron Man 2. And don't get me wrong, I love these cameos when I watch the movies because they were like fun Easter eggs, you know? They added a fun element to the main movie, while the focus was kept on the movie's actual main characters. And of course, in the baby stages of the MCU, the post-credit scenes were used to tease fans with the idea of various MCU superheroes banding together at Earth's mightiest heroes, aka the Avengers. But now the biggest issue that Marvel Studios is facing is that fans have a habit of treating every movie as if it's the next Avengers, when most of the time, it's not part of a bigger plan. Rather, it's just a standalone movie of the titular hero and their adventures or origin.
We gathered everything related to the Tesseract. This does not mean that we're
sorry, Nick. What were you lying?
I was wrong, Director. The world hasn't changed a bit.
Did you know about this?
You want to think about removing yourself from this environment, Doctor?
And you know what the worst part about cameos is? The cameo characters are always treated as sidekicks. Most of the MCU films so far have been guilty of doing this, actually. The new characters will play a huge role in the main film's narrative, but they're never given any autonomy. The cameo characters are always boxed into a supporting role, like take Yelena Belova in Black Widow, or Kate Bishop in Hawkeye, or even America Chavez in Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness as examples. And because of their cameos, audiences immediately start viewing these new heroes as supporting characters rather than new ones like Iron Man, Captain America, and Thor, which is sad because all these characters have separate storylines, exciting powers, and autonomy. But none of this is put into focus unless the characters are lucky enough to have their own movie or TV series. And if they are lucky enough to get their own gig, they're always under the shadow of the more popular heroes.
Okay, Thor, hit me.
Or in the case of Spidey, the character that introduced him into the MCU limelight, Tony Stark. In fact, Peter's character was so influenced by Tony Stark in the two movies that some fans started to call this new version of Spider-Man Iron Man Jr. While in the third Spider-Man movie, the MCU version of Spider-Man was overshadowed by the arrival of Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man. Fans have yet to see a Spider-Man movie in the MCU that is solely based on Tom Holland's Spider-Man. Maybe in the next movie we'll see Spidey take the reign? And here's a PSA for the next reason on the list.
What is this place?
The mirror dimension, where I'm in control.
You get disappointed if your fave comic book character doesn't make a cameo. Hey, there's no shame in admitting that you got your hopes up. It happens to the best of us. And if I'm being honest, most cameos get overhyped for no reason. Like when the cast of WandaVision set their fans up for disappointment by fueling wild theories about Mephisto showing up. And it's no spoiler that this never happened. You'd think Marvel fans would learn from their mistakes, but nope. They still want surprise characters sprinkled in every new MCU project, out of which the only good cameo was in Spider-Man No Way Home, while Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness is a bad example of cameos being sprinkled in.
But I didn't find it. All I found were more of us. So I did those Stevens a favor.
Did that movie give us high expectations for our fave character cameos? Yes, but that's because almost every Marvel character under the sun was rumored to appear in the movie, from returning favorites to major debuts. We can put the cameo hype blame on the unreasonable expectations of fans and false reports from supposed insiders. But at the end of the day, we were all disappointed when the characters we wanted didn't make a cameo, or that they died a bit too soon. But if I'm gonna be real, the next point on the list is one I relate to a bit too much. There are too many cameos to keep track of. I don't know if it's because the MCU released too many projects in Phase 4, or that the multiverse simply gave the writers an opportunity to include more comic book original characters, but it's proving to be pretty difficult to remember who's who, or what their deal is to the actual main character. Are you an enemy, an ally, a future love interest, a future nemesis? Because we're gonna find out soon, but the waiting part is frustrating. And sure, I can refer to the source material, yes, but the thing is, the movies aren't always perfect replicas of the comic books, especially not when it comes to the OG characters being introduced via 30-second cameos. So, the deal is, if you're not a die-hard MCU fan with extensive background knowledge on every single Marvel character and their origin story, you're simply at a loss. Which leads me to the next very important point on this list. That is, the audience is going to lose interest. Look, it's pretty simple. Adding a truckload of cameos into every MCU film might have worked in the previous MCU phases, but not the current one. Truth be told, the whole secret cameo in every MCU film is losing its charm. And like I mentioned before, if you were rooting for your favorite comic book character to show up and they didn't, or God forbid they've been cast poorly, then, well, it's time to burn the film itself and go to your online diary or Twitter to vent out. General audiences just aren't as committed to watching every new MCU project like they used to be, you know? In fact, it's pretty common to skip a new Marvel project if it doesn't look too interesting. Look, I don't know about you, but I'm guilty of doing this once or twice. That's also why there's been low viewership for Disney Plus originals like Ms. Marvel and Werewolf by Night, as well as the box office receipts for a film like Eternals.
I'm an Eternal, Fastos. I exist for Arasham. As do you. It's who you are.
I wouldn't change a single thing about who I am.
These low viewership and box office numbers can be considered one-off situations so far, but we can definitely expect the MCU to reduce the amount of content it's producing. That way, the audience will actually look forward to the new releases and have enough time to do a quick Google search on the cameos that they'll see in the new projects. And the last point was actually first brought to attention by director Quentin Tarantino, actually. Here's what he had to say. There are no real stars in the MCU. And no, this doesn't include the popularity of Robert Downey Jr. and company as the original Avengers and Spider-Man. All the MCU stars in the new phase were introduced as cameos in different movies, having no real impact on the MCU on their own. And it all boils down to the fact that the franchise can't depend on teasing audiences with promises of what's to come.
The collection unit activates when you decouple it. It should automatically start absorbing quantum healing particles.
Also, make sure you stay out of the tardigrade fields. They're cute, but they'll eat you.
One example of this is Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, which relied on hyping secret cameos during its marketing drive. It's time that the MCU launches new major stars that can draw audiences without using secret cameos as a constant crutch. And that's all. Now you know exactly why secret cameos are ruining the MCU. We'll see you in the next video.